Good morning. Welcome back to Views from My Backyard. My name is Jen. Today I want to talk about maybe a contradiction of things. And what brings me to this is that I need help. I need serious, serious help. My house is a wreck. I am not a great housekeeper and I've never really been a great housekeeper. But I have so much clutter in every room. Every room has clutter. I spent 6 hours trying to declutter my part of my upstairs a couple weeks ago, and there's still clutter. So I need something. uh, I've never been a clean freak, and haven't really ever been good at keeping my house overly clean. And I kind of wonder if, maybe it's a stress thing or something along those lines. Maybe I've heard that hoarding, and I wouldn't go as far as saying that what I have is hoarding. It's just a collection of things that I've had over the course of 20 years of living in my house. I've just kind of collected things, and once in a while I do a nice haul out a bunch of junk, but it just seems to keep on accumulating. And there are some things that I don't use. At one point in time, I had a box of stuff that was to be checked like within a year. I don't think I checked that box for like 2 years. Uh, Earlier this spring, I did a bunch of cleaning out where we had a yard sale at my parents' house. I did a video on some of that, showing some of the stuff, and we did pretty well at that yard sale. My parents had some better things and higher value things than I did, but I made enough to pay my truck payment for the month, so I was happy with that. That was fine. I got rid of stuff, didn't have to take it to the dump. There were things at the end that we ended up having to take to the dump, but it was nowhere near the amount of junk that I hauled out of my garage. I did a huge overhaul in my garage, and stuff from the house. There was a lot, and I still have some stuff listed on Facebook Marketplace, which is a total. It's kind of a total pain in the ass. You gotta post the picture, make a description. People either contact you or they don't. And, oh, is it still available? Yeah, and then you never hear from them again. Or they say they're gonna come get something and they don't. But anyways, so that is really what I am needing help with, is decluttering all of this random shit that's in my house. All right, there's a guy right here digging out a ditch, and I'm gonna hope that I don't get fucking crushed by this thing right here. They've been doing construction down the road from my house, and I actually really don't take this road very often. They've been trying to fix a bridge, and now they're digging out a ditch, and they've got a stoplight and all that good stuff. It is what it is. So, anyways, back to the decluttering and what I want to do. My question is, can minimalization work with prepping? Because I really do enjoy being a prepper, but I'm beginning. I'm beginning to get older and thinking about retirement, and that's a ways away, 10 something or other ways away, depending on how I do things. I don't know. Maybe I don't play the lottery, so I wouldn't say that I would play the lottery and get rich, but there are other things that I'm trying to do to increase my wealth. But I've been thinking more and more, the older I get, is what I would like to have and what I would like retirement to look like, things like that. And my house is extremely large. I never really thought much about it when I was young. I bought my house 20 years ago. I wanted acreage. I wanted a huge house. My house is over 200 square feet, which gives me a lot of room to collect a lot of shit. And I have 36 or so acres, which is nice and all, but a lot of it's swamp, and I don't really utilize the land as much as I could or should, or I just don't have time for it because, I'm working my ass off to pay for the mortgage on that. And, I know a solution would be to sell it and get something smaller, but I'm almost done paying off the mortgage. I like the location. I like that I'm not near a bunch of people. So the idea of selling it and buying something smaller at this point in time just kind of seems counterproductive to me, because I kind of would like to go somewhere warmer and somewhere where I can get more seasons when I retire. So anyways, yeah, what I'm looking at for retirement is a smaller amount of acreage and a smaller size house, perhaps a tiny home. And I still want to be able to be prepared, but I also have been looking into minimalization. So, my question, can minimalization work with prepping? And I really like a lot of the minimalist ideas. I've been watching a few different people on YouTube, and I have I have watched this one young lady for, she's not that much younger than me, but she's still a young lady. I've been watching her for a little while. She talks about decluttering your house, and she has a lot of great ideas. I've used some of her ideas. I believe her channel is Clutterbug. And then recently, I've been watching something popped up, and I clicked on Minimalist Mom. She's got some really good ideas of how to declutter and how to minimalize a lot of your stuff. So they've got some really good ideas of how to minimalize and declutter. I need to do that and then figure out a way to organize and have a system so that I keep that. And I really like the minimalist ideas to a certain extent, but my brain has a fear, which I'm sure a lot of people have this, which is where my brain says, when I go to haul out a bunch of stuff, either throw it away, donate it, or sell it, whatever I'm doing, my brain says, what if you might need that in the future? That's the hardest concept for me to overcome, because I have used stuff that's been laying around my house. I have used a lot of stuff that's just been laying around my house. I recently just fixed some PVC work in my house, and it was mostly from shit that was laying around the house that's been there for however many years. So that's one of the hardest things for me to tackle, is the what if I need it someday. But I do like the ideas of having less stuff, having only the things that you use on a regular basis. One of the things that they talk about is to clean off horizontal surfaces. Horizontal surfaces get a lot of clutter built up on them, and I have a table in my downstairs living area that I used to use for tie dyeing. It is now covered with a bunch of junk. I mean, it's stuff. I'm sure there's a lot of trash on it. I'm sure there's trash. There's gardening stuff that when I went out and used it in the garden, I just kind of brought it in and left it on the table. That table is a catching ground for all kinds of shit. My dining room table that I don't usually eat at is the catching ground for a whole bunch of shit. I think one of the things that I really need to do is make a home for everything. That's a big minimalist thing. Make a home for stuff. Trying to keep the horizontal surfaces clear of clutter. That's going to be a huge challenge for me. But I'm hoping that over the time and over getting some ideas from some of these people that I follow on YouTube, that I will be able to do this and maybe create a habit of doing something like this. I mean, I have 5-10 minutes in the morning before I get ready for work, and I usually go to bed early enough I could take 5 or 10 minutes at the end of the day to do a quick decluttering of these areas every single day. That would not really compromise my life in any way, shape, or form. So when I think about minimalizing and getting rid of things that I don't use a lot, and that makes my brain scared, but I also think, well, what about my prepping? Because a lot of the things that I do for prepping is stockpiling and collecting collecting items that I'm going to use in the instance of, say like my bug-in bag or get home bag that I made for my truck. Yeah, I don't see it because it's behind the seat in my truck, but I've got stuff in there that I may or may not use if I'm in an emergency circumstance, and I may or may not need to get home with or not. But it's in a place, it's in a home, it's all contained. And that's the big thing, I think, when I'm going forward, gonna look at prepping. I do have a lot of stockpiling things, but I also have quite a large space. And what I have with a lot of large space is I have a lot of areas that I can create storage that are not going to be clutter areas. I've got a huge closet in my bedroom that I could put a twin size bed in and almost use it as another bedroom. It's that big. So I think as far as stockpiling, I just have to be very intentional about what I'm keeping and what I am collecting for stockpiling for prepping. I think the intentionality is going to be a big thing, and that plays a lot in a minimalist lifestyle. Being intentional with what you want to keep and what you don't want to keep is a huge minimalist thing, and not going out and buying the things that you want, for a second's worth of gratification. you know that's another huge minimalist thing. So some of the things that I've been thinking of as how I can prepare and also work in a minimalist way is cleaning out the unused items to make room for stockpiling supplies that I am going to use. Some of the things that I already have stockpiled is empty vinegar jugs, empty empty gallon jugs that had vinegar in them. I have a bunch of water in them, and I've got 4 or so stored in a closet on a shelf. They're not taking up room where something else wants to go. I've got 4 of them in my bathroom, my downstairs bathroom over my laundry area, and that's in a place that I don't need to house anything else. So I think as I start to clear out things that I really don't use, I think I'm going to find plenty of places to store things. I did a lot of canning over last weekend. I canned 3 batches of soup. I've got those in a cupboard where, have I ever filled that cupboard with food? Hell no. But if I can keep my canned goods stored under there, it's in my kitchen, it's in a convenient area. If I can keep those things stored under there for use for when I want to use them, it's going to be a no-brainer, because most of the time that cupboard that I have, that I've been putting my canned goods that I've canned in, or even things that I'm stockpiling for my kitchen preps, I've got plenty of room to store those under the cabinets. Under the kitchen cabinet space, as long as I've got everything neatly organized under there, is going to be phenomenal. But I don't utilize that space. So I don't think I'm going to run into a problem with stockpiling things like that. And I guess maybe it's, the mentality that my house is really huge and I have a lot of areas that I can store things. I've also bought a lot of shelving units. My house has, quite a bit of cupboards in the kitchen. The kitchen has a lot of counter space, and the kitchen has a lot of cupboard space, which I feel very, very fortunate that I've got an entire 2, kind of 2 walls in the kitchen where I've got a nice large counter, and underneath it I've got the cupboards, and then above the counter I have more cupboards, and then on top of the cupboards I have space between the cupboards and the ceiling, which I can store stuff that I really, really very frequently use. So I think that is kind of utilizing the spaces that I do have. I believe it's going to be a no-brainer. That is one of the things that I'm going to try to implement and see how it goes. This is, I guess, going to be an experiment. I'm feeling really good about this minimalist idea. I want to look more into it. I want to see how it's going to work with prepping. I've already come up with the ideas that I just presented as far as being able to live somewhat of a minimalist lifestyle and also be able to prep at the same time. I'm hoping that it will help me be a lot less stressed in my life. I think from what I've read and heard from people that understand psychology and have degrees in psychology is, and I know this, absolutely know this, is that our brains today are overworked. There is so much stimulation out there that our brains have a hard time decompressing all the information coming in and utilizing it in a way that is going to be beneficial to us. I'm not sure if that's the correct way that I want to say it, but we are overstimulated by so much stuff. There is so much of a dopamine hit going on in and out of our lives. It's like posting things on Facebook, you post a picture and you get a dopamine hit off of all the people that liked your comments and whatnot and this and that you continue to do it. And it's one of these things where our brains have gotten used to all this stimulation and how it makes us feel good, but it also keeps us in fight or flight all the time. And our bodies are not meant to take that kind of stimulation all the time. And being quite of a stress response of that nature, there's just so many things that maybe even doing this minimalization, I'll call it a minimalization challenge, that should help me declutter my brain as well. And one of the things one of the ladies that does the decluttering talks about is all of the visual stimulation that we have. And it's true. We've got our phones all the time. We are constantly being notified of this, that, everything. Their phone goes off every 2 seconds. I just had a text come in not that long ago for a doctor's appointment that I'm heading to. I think it was a doctor's appointment that I'm heading to. And we have all this stimulation coming in, so many things that we can look at, and yet our houses should be a place of zen. Our houses, or even, say one particular room in our house, should be an area where we can relax, decompress, de-stress. Yet we've got so much stimulation, and clutter is another form of stimulation. So hopefully I will be getting into doing some of this minimalizing stuff and decluttering ideas. And I would definitely like to present some of these ideas to you guys as well. Find out what your thoughts are on some of these ideas. And, maybe we can help each other out in ways that we wouldn't have had possible before. I've got a question for you. If you guys are looking into preparedness, is there a way for that to go hand in hand with minimalization? Let me know what you guys think, what your experiences are. Maybe we can create a community around this and get everybody's lives decluttered and a little more prepared. I gotta put this thing down. It's freaking bright out today. Thank you guys for coming along with me today. My name is Jen. This is Views from My Backyard. See you next time.